So which we will be speaking to our guests in the studio so they can share their thoughts and opinions on some of these very important matters. We'll start off with the Republic Press, and it says uncovered Ghana water valve culvert turns dumping site, and that's on page 4. Also, President Akufo-Addo disappointed in 2020 election results from Upper West. Martin Amidu, my disqualification as special prosecutor would rather have been a disaster for Akufo-Addo. He's been speaking quite a lot recently and releasing some information as well. But let's move on. Government dumps vaccine shake, and yesterday the health minister, Honorable Kweku Agyeman-Manu, made an appearance at the committee that's probing the issue with regards to the procurement of Sputnik vaccines actually into the country, and that whole controversy that came about because of that deal. And he says that, well, government has ended that deal because the sheikh wrote to government saying that he would not be able to procure the vaccines. We'll get into that. And also, Afenyo Markin challenges Bagbin for referring Ken Ejipong to Privileges Committee. And Education Ministry scraps math set contract. Daily Graphic, pirates on rampage in Gulf of Guinea, abduct Ghanaian fishing vessel crew. That's on page 26. Sputnik vaccine suppliers pull out. Minister of Health discloses. And 3 ministries receive clearance to employ 11,840. And the big story on the Daily Graphic front page is planting for food struggles for survival. Flagship program partners owed huge debts, according to the minister. And there we have the photo of the Honorable Minister for Food and Agriculture, Dr. Owusu Efriye Akoto. On to the Daily Guide, and it says that blood on JB killers, chiefs push for a mayor in Doma West, and Nigeria hot political bed, military is needed. Dubai shakes Sputnik contract cancelled. You find that on page 3. And now to the Ghanaian Times. 12 years after fire swept through it, the old Foreign Affairs building has been abandoned. It's left at the mercy of the weather, and plants are growing in the upper floors. Very worrying. And you'll find that story on page 16. We're committed to safeguard security in the country, according to the president. And African heads of state in Accra to honor former Nigerian President Isufu today. Sputnik V vaccine contract terminated, according to the health minister. The Finder says Sputnik V supplier terminates contract with government, according to Minister. And Education Ministry terminates contract for the supply of mathematical instruments on page 5. TUC yet to apologize to Rebecca and Samira. Those would be the first and second ladies respectively. And you remember that TUC had stepped into that whole controversy and indicated that some monies had been paid already to the first and second ladies, of which they were asking for a refund. And Mr. Eugene Ahin from the office of the president says that the first and second ladies never received that money, and so TUC has to apologize. COVID-19 deaths in Africa surged more than 40% over previous week. And EcoBank, GCB Bank, controlled 23.9% of deposits. And Alforiata grants financial clearance for recruitment of 11,840 staff. And then finally, the Business and Financial Times, Tourism Ministry calls for capacity building in hotel sector as Movenpick unveils decades anniversary of hospitality finest. Okay. And also media budget, tell us the impact of newly introduced taxes. That's from Professor Quarty, and calls for acquisition of vessels for shipping line intensify. And finally, Global Media Alliance celebrates World PR Day. In the studios this morning, I have Kwesi Kwating. He's a member of the NPP Communications team, and also Edem Agbana is the NDC Deputy Youth Organizer. And we'll start off with that issue. It's also been a controversy that's been ongoing for the last 2 weeks with regards to the loan that was supposed to have been granted to MPs to purchase vehicles. And, you know, they were divided. We had Honorable Okujeto Ablakwa at one point indicate that he would prefer if MPs do not take this loan, but rather find private, organizations to support them to raise the funds so they can purchase loans. Other MPs had said that it was even unconstitutional for government to provide loans to MPs because per Article 71, if you read further, it indicates that MPs are also Article 71 holders, and so they should also be provided official vehicles. So yesterday, Parliament went ahead to approve the $28 million as car loan for its members, and the House also approved $13.36 million as tax exemptions for the MPs and the Council of State members to purchase these cars. The Finance Committee's recommendation for a discontinuation of the car loan for MPs has also been approved. And so that means that the next time that Parliament will reconvene, of course, for the next administration, they would have to be provided, and I'm talking about the MPs, would have to be provided official vehicles to do their work. Let's take a look at this story and we'll come back and discuss it.
Created as though the 275 members of Parliament of this House are here just for ourselves. We need to reassure the good people of this country that it has never been about ourselves.
If the four-wheel drive is a luxury to some members of Parliament, I say that it is not a luxury to others. It is not an idea of us being admonished that we should demonstrate that we love the people of this country. That is our responsibility. Let's see that in our action. But I want to caution myself and caution our colleagues. When the cameras are before you, don't try to play saint. When the cameras are before you, don't try to pretend to be who you are not. Because we know the conduct of everybody. And if we begin to question the conduct of people, I really don't think that that is what the people of this country want. With this, let me challenge you and challenge myself that I agree that we should demand, don't give us any car loan.
And that's Comrade Murtala Mohammed, and he is the MP for Tamale Central, and he was responding to some earlier points that were raised by the MP for Northong, that's Honorable Okudzeto Ablakwa. But we also heard from MP for Tamale North, that's Honorable Suini, and this is what he also had to say about the matter.
You seem to disagree with the position taken by the rest of your colleagues. What is that?
Well, you see, I tried to catch the speaker's attention. Unfortunately, I wasn't successful at that. I do not disagree entirely with the views that were expressed on the floor, but I have a problem with, how those views came across. It was as if the debate or discussion was we versus some people and others, which I find quite unfortunate, because we need to understand the conditions.
Hearing being who?
I mean, it was as if the media and the citizens who are complaining. We need to understand the positions from which they complain. Their positions are that life is hard, it's difficult. And so you need to understand those sentimental reactions to, such privileges being extended to us as members of Parliament.
That's Honorable Alaji Suini. He is the MP for Tamale North. I'll start off with you, Adam. I mean, especially because this seems to be some controversy that surrounds, some members of your party. But of course, yesterday I listened to Honorable Kesal Atuforsin, and he said that he would have preferred if the MPs came together and rejected the car loan, so that moving forward, government will provide these vehicles for them. And so that little misunderstanding between Comrade Murtala and Honorable Okudzeto Ablakwa, if I may say, were they not speaking the same language? Was Honorable Okudzeto not speaking the same language, and did it require that response from Comrade?
Well, Bella, good morning to you and to my colleague and to all our viewers. I think that what happened in Parliament yesterday is very good for our democracy, and we must be very happy that on the floor of the House, you have members of the same political party disagreeing on issues of national interest. That has always been our position. Some of us believe that Parliament must not be a place where there is always groupthink. It should be possible that an agreement or a bill proposed by the majority should have some members of Parliament rejecting it or speaking against it. It should always not be one side of the House saying yes, the other side saying no. So on the face of it, I believe that it is good for our democracy, and we must encourage disagreement within the same caucus. It is really good for the growth of our democracy. Having said that, this whole arrangement of car loans is a discussion, it's a conversation that we must have dispassionately. We must have a broader conversation as to the purpose of the loan and whether or not even the loan is constitutional. Because when you look at Article 71 of the Constitution and all the other Article 71 office holders, you will realize, and I have spoken to MPs who are of the view that if the state is providing cars for DCEs who are appointed by the president, if the state is providing vehicles for other Article 71 office holders, why is it a case that Parliament, which happens to be a house of representatives of the people, duly elected, they have to go through the stress of having some amount of money deducted from their salaries to service this loan? So should the MPs also start demanding that just as ministers are given vehicles to work with, just as DCs and other Article 71 office holders have vehicles, official vehicles that they are working with, should MPs also be given vehicles that they will not pay for? Because the current arrangement is that when you are a minister or a deputy minister and you are given a vehicle, after you serve your tenure of office, you have the option of paying or buying the vehicle and making it yours. Should that option not be available for MPs as well? Why should it be a loan? Now, when you say it is a loan, the current arrangement is that the state is still going to take 60% of the cost. And this loan even doesn't come with interest. We all know the characteristics of a loan, what constitutes a loan. Now, some of the MPs are of the view that if it is a loan, then allow us make private arrangements, because there are some members of the House who this is their fifth term, this is their fourth term, and every term or at the beginning of every term they are forced to pay for a loan. And the truth is that not all of them appreciate, or not all of them really want it. As I speak, right from January, they started deducting an amount of 6,000 Ghana cedis from the MPs' salaries each. And you speak to some MPs who will tell you off camera that, you know, I have 4 cars already out of this process. So I really don't think that this option is the best for us. I have also seen MPs who say, look, in my constituency, I would have preferred that the amount is given to me and I'll buy a grader so that I'll be working on rough roads in my constituency, or invest that money in a scholarship scheme or something else. But in this case, you virtually have no option. They start deducting from your salary, then the vehicle is given to you. And in an instance where you use the money to purchase something else, then there are constitutional issues, and then people begin to take you on. We can recall the issue of the Honorable Mahama Yariga, where he decided to buy an ambulance with his car loan. Then there was an issue as to whether that was the purpose of the loan, whether there was some misappropriation and all of that. So these are conversations that we need to have. But my view is that when you look at the benefits that Article 71 office holders get currently in our arrangement, we are spending too much money on the political class, on elected representatives. Let us begin to be a bit modest in our approach, so that people don't see politics as a vehicle to acquire more properties. Because when you go to the constituencies, you know, people will tell you, I mean, constituents will tell you, even there are some MPs that will tell you, frankly, that Bella, you see, we must appear modest, because you go to constituencies, some very, very rural, some there are no chairs, there are no tables in schools, very basic things that they need. The MPs are crying for the MPs Common Fund to be increased, so that they will use that to really do more development on the ground. But rather, we invest so much in ex-gratia, invest so much in all of these other emoluments and benefits that accrue to them. I think that we should have a broader conversation on how to reduce some of the benefits. Then we can have a national, we can build a consensus on these issues. But as regards to the disagreement currently, I can only say that it is good for our democracy. It is good that we do not create an impression that everybody is in politics to make wealth. Everybody is in politics to have more V8s and all of that. But let us have a conversation, and let's leave the decision to the individual MPs, so that those who think that they do not want their 6,000 Ghana cedis deducted monthly to purchase a vehicle can direct that money into something else.
But we're told that even when the deductions are made and an MP still insists he doesn't need the car, they'll refund the money.
No, but the question is that why do you even start deducting before giving me the option to come and reject? It should be an individual arrangement. It is possible that if you leave it an individual arrangement, you can even say that we are giving you a loan to the tune of, say, $100,000. if it is $100,000, I may decide that looking at where my constituency is, I can afford a saloon car. Maybe my constituency is right here in Accra. Maybe I need only a saloon car and may invest the other money in buying some other cars for other works in the constituency, maybe pickups and others. But where the options are not decided by the MPs, but there's a pre-arranged condition. So you come, deductions are being made, then you are limited with your choice as to what you use that money for. Yes, you are paying with your salary, you must decide. So I think that the argument by the Honorable Okujeto Ablakwa and Honorable Patrick Boama that let it be a private arrangement by the MPs, I think that should be the best option for the MPs, so that I decide that I am working with this institution. I need this particular car. This is the arrangement that I want to have with this bank or with this financial institution. Then they supply me whatever, this type of car. But as we speak now, the MPs really have no choice. You come into the house, and whether you like it or not, deductions are being made, the cars come, and they say if you don't want it, you have to come back, write letters, and have your money refunded. That is stressful. Even before they begin the deduction, even before the approval is given, the deductions, yeah, because as we speak, it is even not proper that the approval was given only yesterday, but they started deductions even before the approval. It means that,
well, I mean, at least now we're being told that this would be the last time that loans will be provided for the MPs, because moving forward.
So it means that this conversation and the disagreement between the members of parliament is really good, because in the past we never had this conversation. That is why it was possible to start a deduction even before they brought the loan to parliament for approval. And I don't think that it is really proper.
Okay.
They should leave it as an individual choice for the MPs to make.
Kwesi, let me bring you in, because there's a $13 million tax waiver. And then, of course, if you add the amount that's been given, the loan that's been given to the Council of State members, which is $3.5 million, plus the $28 million that's been given to the MPs, it comes to $31.5 million. Now, government is paying 60% of this. And so if you think about it, could they not have just gone ahead to, you know, fund the entire bill and provide official vehicles? Because there was a debate, and maybe this was government's opportunity to say, you know what, from this parliament, we're going to start providing official vehicles instead of still going ahead to approve the $28 million for the MPs and the other amounts as well.
Well, a very good morning to you, and good morning to Adam and to all our cherished viewers. I mean, this is quite a sensitive issue, because if you look at the civil opposition that has arisen relative to the discussion about these car loans and MPs and their privileges that they enjoy, certain entitlements, whether under Article 71 or whatever conditions of services, if you look at the civil opposition that has arisen, it is not really about the money, but it is about the fact that civilians and ordinary citizens believe that when it comes to the interests of the politician or the political class, there's nothing like MPP or NDC. And when it comes to their interests, that is when they all come together and then realize that at this point in time, we have to fight for what probably we may call ex gratia. We have to demand for our cars, we have to demand for this or that. But if you look at it critically, the other school of thought or the other point of view is that at the end of the day, if you go to our districts, DCEs are having their own cars, like Adam said. Yeah. If you will come to even our judicial system, from even the lowest calls to our highest calls, they are, as part of their conditions of service, they do have at least vehicles that they move in. It is a norm, or it is a practice that, of course, you need some basic means of movement. Yeah. So the fundamental question is, why has it become an issue when it comes to the legislature? It is because the ordinary citizen feels that when it comes to the legislature, he has a direct way of demanding for accountability. And some way, somehow, the ordinary citizen feels that he voted that legislature into office. Yeah. And so all these approvals, whether this person has entitlement to this, whether these are the conditions of service, whether these are the privileges attached or emoluments attached to whatever service of the executive, the judiciary, or even you, the legislature, you approve it. And so if we start hitting you, you also start hitting the others. For me, that is a moral principle undergirding this whole conversation. And it all boils down to what Adam said, that it calls for a broader conversation. Do we believe that it is necessary for us to still maintain these privileges and emoluments under Article 71? Today, a president will come, set a committee, and the committee will come with this proposal. It goes to Parliament, Parliament ratifies it, and it becomes binding. we have a conversation from the opposition, we have a conversation, other arguments from the government. Civil society also weighs into the debate. Citizens also weighs into the debate. At the end of the day, is it a conversation that we really want to bring a finality to it?
Yeah.
So this is what probably we should be discussing. Is it important and is it necessary that we should buy cars for them one-off, so that it becomes like the usual practice we have in the judiciary, the practice that we have in the executive? You finish serving your term and you move out.
Yeah.
Or can we still be doing this? And of course, I think we have to also situate the argument in a proper context that what they've done, there's really nothing illegal about it. So it's about the moral principle and the message that the Ghanaians want to send to the legislature.
When you say there's nothing illegal about what exactly? About the provision of the loans?
Yes, I'm saying that, of course. I mean, if you look at the legal procedures, clearly it pass through, how do you call it, all the legal requirements. So the question is, why has it become topical? It's become topical.
But the MPs have said it's even unconstitutional.
I mean, those are arguments or probably questions that at the end of the day, the Supreme Court may have to answer if people want to test the law. I mean, because it's the same section of parliament who also approved these conditions of service and other things.
And they're saying that they are perpetuating unconstitutionality.
Yes, I mean, of course,
because if you read further, you know, the Article 71 part of the Constitution, it says that all this money will have to be drawn from the Consolidated Fund to provide vehicles. And not vehicles, it didn't state specifically, but it said that to provide, you know, a better condition of service for all these people who are working and are identified as Article 71 office holders.
Bella,
but for some reason, the MPs have been left out.
Bella, I'll refuse the invitation of determining the illegality of the matter, especially at this stage. I'm sure there are authorities and institutions that have the capacity to make such determination. But what I believe, and as of now, is that a process has been done. Of course, people have raised issues of legality and illegality. So far as I'm concerned, it went through the legal procedures in Parliament, and that process has now come to stay. The question is not even really about the process. If you look at the civil opposition, the full civil protest that has come, if you recall, I think we had the same civil protest when the issue of building a new chamber came. And so you realize that as soon as Parliament decides to do anything, probably concerning themselves, concerning their conditions of service, the public will say, hey, we will not allow you. It's symbolic. It sends a message that the public feels that politicians and the political class are taking advantage of them. And their representatives are not representing them enough when it comes to conversations of such nature. And this is the time that, as a people, we have to raise this conversation. Is it important that judges should continue to be enjoying certain conditions of services? Is it important that first ladies or spouses of presidents should be continue to enjoy certain conditions of services? Are we ready to pay A amount? Are we ready to pay B amount? And even for me, it's not even really about parliamentarians alone. There are some CEOs who are taking monies that people feel that they are not entitled to or they should not be taking. These are conversations that we need to have broadly as a people. And I believe that this opportunity brings the invitation for all of us to have this conversation broadly and nationally.
Don't you think that if citizens were given all the things that they require to live a comfortable life, if roads were fixed, if, you know, education didn't have issues, and you know, health and all of that, maybe for some reason they wouldn't have raised concerns about some of these issues like they are now? Because one of the main questions was, is this the right time, especially when we are still grappling with COVID?
I mean, such concerns for me is valid, and you also have to put it in a proper context. And the context, like you rightly stated, is within the post-COVID period where we need economic turnaround. And so, if anybody is to advance such an argument, for me, is a valid argument, and that is the more reason why it calls for this broader conversation. And indeed, when this issue came, at this time, you realize that the opposition and the government representations in Parliament, at the end of the day, all came together with one common voice, probably because it served their interest. That is other conversations that people are also raising. But I think we also not have to be unnecessarily sentimental and emotional about this issue. Do we genuinely believe that parliamentarians need vehicle or not? If indeed they need them, then we have to have a conversation about how we get it for them. Whether we are buying it outright so that it becomes a state property, or we are still going by the model that they are using. And that's why I agree with my brother Edem here that it calls for broader conversation, it calls for national consensus, and all of us will come together and say that, well, Article 71, enough is enough. And I mean, if you recall, the attempt to review the constitution in 2011. I mean, these are all conversations that came up from people that appeared before the committee, and I'm sure these are things that we can revisit and bring a final.
Is it time for us to review the constitution, really?
I think that is long overdue. I have held the view that many of the challenges that we face today is due to some aspects of our constitution. It's long overdue, and I think governments must be bold to confront the issues. There are many arrangements in our constitution today that are not favorable to the demands of the times. And Bella, you asked a question about if we're fixing roads and solving the problems of the citizens, if they would demand. You see, I was doing some research and I realized that African politicians, members of parliament in African countries, are among the highest paid in the world. And it is also because in our situation, despite all that, you hear MPs are being paid this amount, that amount. You may think it is huge. But speak to the MPs and they'll tell you the pressure on them, because we also have a situation where people expect that because I queued to vote for you to represent me in parliament, my school fees must be paid by you. My water bill must be paid by you. When there is a funeral, you must contribute to the buying of caskets and other things. So there's a lot of pressure on the politicians as well. So let's have a conversation and say that let the Article 71 emolument or benefit be reviewed, and let's see how we can empower the members of parliament to work. I would prefer that some of the benefits that are given to MPs personally be added to what they get through the common fund, so that they can increase their disbursements in terms of educational support, in terms of support for health facilities in their constituencies, and all of these things. Because it appears that you look at how much they receive as common fund and compared to what comes to them personally, individually, as in terms of emoluments, gratia, and all of that, it doesn't tally. We certainly can do more to empower our MPs to get to the grounds and support people and lift the standard of living instead of the current arrangement that we have. It's quite sad. We cannot continue this way. We must begin to review some of these things, because people are losing confidence in the political class. Today, you step out and people identify you as a politician, and the kind of words or chances that come from them to you, it's really terrible, very terrible. I will share an experience with you. Just yesterday, I was on my way from Kumasi to Accra. Then there was a problem around the Nkoko area where an accident occurred. I'm sure your network reported, caused a delay. When we stepped out of the car, this was an accident. When we stepped out of the car, almost everybody was lamenting about bad leadership and you politicians. You cannot even give us what was the name? Dual carriage roads and all of these problems. If you had proper leaders, and the anger in the system, young people are complaining. People think that politicians are only there to enrich themselves. We ought to review this arrangement and then ensure that people have confidence in us as a political class.
Indeed. And now I want us to move on to another issue as well. And you recollect that sometime on the 6th of April, there was an official announcement that indicated that government was supposed to receive some 3.4 million doses of Sputnik V. And then we're told that it was supposed to arrive on the 15th of May. For some reason, we never got that. But then sometime in June, the early part of June, there was a Norwegian, reporter who indicated that there was something untoward with regards to the procurement of Sputnik V vaccines in the country. In actual fact, he revealed that we were buying it at a unit cost of $19 as against the $10 that was being given directly from the Russian government and the producers of the Sputnik V. And so one issue led to another. The chairman of the Health Committee in Parliament indicated that government had not made any payments at all for the Sputnik V vaccines, and that it was not just these middlemen, but there were also some other people that government was liaising with so that they can procure the vaccines. Government had told us there were some struggles with regards to dealing directly with the Russian government, which is why they went in for the middlemen. Then the finance minister also said, yes, we did pay some amount of money, and this was an audio that was released by this Norwegian reporter. Moving forward, a bipartisan parliamentary probe committee was set up to find out details about this particular controversy. And yesterday, the health minister made an appearance there, and he indicated that Ghana had ended that deal with the middleman because they could not supply the Sputnik V vaccines. Let's take a look at it and we'll discuss. Okay, I'll just read a bit of what he said. So he indicated that the company that agreed to supply Ghana with the overpriced Sputnik V vaccines had terminated the contract it had with the country. And under the said contract, like I mentioned, Ghana was supposed to receive 3.4 million doses of Sputnik V. So this is what the minister said. He used the opportunity to explain to the committee why the contract was cancelled. And he said that the intermediary had told government that the first 300,000 doses will be supplied within 2 weeks, but failed to deliver the vaccines. I think the video is ready now. Let's take a look.
Now, presently, if you ask me whether I will go back for a private thing or not, my answer will be no. Why? Because my appetite and the enthusiasm we had around that time to sign this contract is no more there. Why? Because the delivery schedules that have been promised by COVAX is very close now. We are now about mid-July, and by end July, early August, we may begin to receive doses from COVAX. That is the arrangement we have for vaccine supplies into the country now. The African Medicine Supply Platform had shifted us from AstraZeneca to Johnson & Johnson. Johnson & Johnson had not been approved by Ghana FDA, and they also gave us indications of supplies beginning from August. We are now waiting for these platforms to perform. If they fail, that will mean that we may have to start again looking for intermediaries to work on it. There have been pressure from G7, G8, poor countries, WHO, United Nations, to push richer countries that have procured and they were not using to share doses. This mechanism has started working, and if you are lucky, even before the end of July, let's end July by first 2 weeks in August, America has actually given Africa some quantities through the COVAX initiative. They have allocated 1.2 million to Ghana, and I believe within the next 2 or 3 weeks, we may begin to receive such doses as well. So these are extra things that are going to come, and I believe that the 3 types of sources.
That's the Health Minister, Honorable Kwekwajuman Menu, and he was making that revelation at the Bipartisan Parliamentary Probe Committee. Adam, I'll bring you in first because the minority had come out to make some allegations, and it indicated that government lied to some extent when it said that it did not, or it was unsuccessful in trying to deal directly with the Russian government, because the minority in parliament had said that they had investigated and realized that the Russian government had always been prepared to deal with our government directly. And so you called for the abrogation of this contract. This must be certainly good news, no?
Great news for us, and we feel vindicated that we advocated and stood by the truth and ensured that we saved Ghana from losing millions of dollars to corruption, that we stood by the truth and protected the public purse and prevented some middleman and some officials of government from deliberately stealing Ghana's money.
You can't say for a fact that it was deliberate.
I said deliberately. We are talking about COVID, Bella, where countries are prepared to partner, where the World Health Organization is doing everything possible to encourage partnership between countries. You have a situation where President Akufo-Addo's government tell us that they are unable to strike a deal with the Russian government, but it has to take a middleman, an individual, to strike that deal, buy the vaccines, and then resell to us at a higher price. But for the Norwegian investigation that revealed that that deal was full of corruption, and but for the vigilance of the minority, for the vigilance of the NDC, we would have been paying the $19 for these vaccines. I can tell you that there is no need to belabor the point. The whole truth is that the middleman is unable to supply the vaccines because the deal was exposed, and they know that if they had gone ahead, we would have cited them for corruption. Bella, how possible, and also on your show I said it, is it that the government of Ghana, with diplomatic mission in Russia, could not have an agreement with the Russian government for them to supply the people of Ghana these vaccines? But it took a middleman who will buy these vaccines and sell it at a higher price. And look at the arrangement that they made, the way they came to Ghana, the announcements that were made, and all of this. Everything shows that this is just a corrupt deal that has gone bad. And we are happy that the middleman has pulled out of the race, out of the contract, the procurement process, and said he cannot supply any longer.
But we know Russia was not dealing necessarily directly with governments. It was through the RDIF. And we're told that eventually the RDIF also, engaged some middlemen, and maybe that's how come government was able to deal with them.
But when these whole fights against COVID started, on daily basis, we had spokespersons for government and President Akufo-Addo himself always touting Ghana's standing in the global space in terms of fighting COVID. We were told that one of the reasons why we were the first country to receive the earlier vaccine was because of how prepared, the strength we had shown in the fight against COVID. Tell me how difficult it was for government of Ghana to use whatever internal channels available to arrange for vaccines directly, rather than go buy these vaccines at almost double the price. It was just a deal that has gone bad. And I keep saying that President Akufo-Addo and his government see COVID as an opportunity to loot more. That is why.
I'm sorry, but unless you have evidence for this,
I'm giving you evidence. I'm giving you evidence. So allow me make it. I'm saying that President Akufo-Addo and his government see COVID as an opportunity to loot more. That is why today
I will not agree to this, and I will not allow you to make a statement.
The Frontier Healthline Services, the one they were providing at the airport, that all the ministers that were in charge till today, have we been able to establish the people who gave those contracts? You gave a contract, awarded a contract to a company that had no track record in that, a company that was formed only a few days before that contract was given on sole sourcing. And you tell me that the people forming the contract had no prior knowledge. They were not given any idea that go form a contract, just put a company together, come get this contract. During the vetting of the ministers, all 7 ministries that should have an idea about this Frontier Healthcare Services contract that they were executing at the Kotoka International Airport, none of them, all of them denied knowledge about it.
And you want to use this
instance? It was one instance.
To say what
in addition to even how the COVID funds were mismanaged, we were in this country within 2 weeks. Government provided food to a few people within the period. We saw how NGOs, I personally, I was part of the team that Senor Hosi and Co had put together, where private companies, industries came together, and they were also providing food. Government told us that within that 2 weeks, they spent 54 million. Clearly unrealistic. These deals were all corrupt.
Did they not give a breakdown of what they spent?
We saw. You see,
meals and
those hot meals
and all that.
Hot meals to where and where.
But they gave us a breakdown.
When almost every part of Accra that had those hot meals, there were NGOs, private individuals that were providing it. Where did the government provide their own? Bella, in addition to that, this Sputnik V, we said it. I was on this show. I said it that this is just an attempt by government to loot more, and we are happy that after they were exposed. Today, the minister tells us that he has lost the enthusiasm and the vigor that he had for it. He's lost it because the amount of money that the middleman was charging and what would have been of benefit to them has been taken out.
He did not say that.
But he said he has lost. We asked him to deal with private individuals.
Lost that interest. It doesn't mean
he could not make money from it. And I'm saying that why has he lost the interest?
I mean, he's spoken quite a number of times.
The decision to supply
it was more about the Ghanaian and how to procure these vaccines.
So the decision to supply vaccines or procure vaccines for the people of Ghana should not be about the interest of the minister. It is about timeliness and how responsive we can be to the fight against COVID. So if today he is telling us that he has lost the interest in dealing with the private sector in getting the vaccines, the question is that why didn't he have the same interest in dealing with the other governmental institutions in getting us the vaccines? This deal and the decision by the private investor or the middleman to pull out vindicates the NDC's position.
Okay.
We must be fair to the people of Ghana. Not this pandemic. The pandemic should not be used as an opportunity to loot more. Clearly, a deal that was meant to steal, a deal that was exposed, and they have been exposed badly that today they pulled out and they are giving us all sorts of ridiculous excuses. I am happy that we are cutting out, but we will continue to interrogate any other deal that the government strikes with regards to the provision of the vaccines. But let me remind the government that dealing with the vaccines, we talk about time. If you give people first jabs and you are supposed to give the second jab within a certain period, government must be up and doing and ensure that these vaccines are provided on time.
Well,
but
that will come in
that is not a guarantee. Or is not a visa for the government to go dealing with middlemen when government could have direct relationship with the institutions that are providing these vaccines.
Chrissy, come in for me, because again, there was an audio that was released by this same Norwegian reporter where the finance minister was interacting with him and, you know, alluded to the fact that we had paid for 300,000 doses, as against what the chairman for the health committee had said. I don't think we've received that 300,000 doses yet, have we? And now we're saying that we have ended this contract. And so what happens to the rest of the vaccines?
Bella, you see, when you are having a conversation and you take the text out of context, you lose the beauty of the conversation. And so this conversation should be having a proper context. Okay. And the proper context was, when was the attempt to procure these vaccines? I mean, if you look at the COVID and all issues surrounding COVID, all governments in the world, all over the world, reacted to it. No government was proactive with regards to, I mean, the fight against COVID. And so most of your reactions as a government will be a knee-jerk solution to the problem that has come. And so as at then, went all over the world, there was shortage of vaccines. If you recall, I mean, there was donation, I think 300,000 jabs or so. And later on, we're waiting for the second jab, which never came. I think it came at a very quite
it was 600,000 the first time, yes.
600,000. It came at a very quite late time, which confirms the position that there was shortage. And so if we are a government at a time where your people are panicking, lives are being lost, your biggest and first priority is to prioritize human lives at the altar of economic cost. And so it should be situated in that proper context. And so it establishes the point of necessity. Was it necessary at that time for government to procure those vaccines? Was it necessary that when lives were being lost, government should have sacrificed the, I mean, economic costs at the, human life at the altar of economic costs, or the vice versa? And for me, if I'm a government, my core duty or aim is to protect the lives of people. And for me, that is what I believe the decision that the government took, that it was necessary that at that particular time, regardless of course, government must do everything possible to get those vaccines. Of course, there has been argument about factory price in Russia, that it was $10 and Ghana was attempting to procure it at $19. And for me, that is a very simplistic argument. I make this position because even if you want to advance such an argument, you also have to look at the variables that causes even an increase in or the price change, because you are looking at, even if you had bought it from the X factory price as $10, we're still going to do shipment in anyway that we're going to pay for. There was still going to be freight, storage, and other things. But
it would not have amounted to $19 per unit, would it?
You have to demonstrate that maybe shipment was going to cause this, storage was going to cause this, and other things. You have to demonstrate that. But the point is that there was still going to be an increase. Whichever way, there was still going to be an increase. And so to establish an argument that because in Russia it is $10, so if Ghana did not get theirs $10, it means there was an attempt to steal and there was stealing, or there was
not. But the WHO
is a very simplistic argument, yes.
To avoid dealing with middlemen.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. That so it boils down to the point about necessity and under the urgency of the moment, whether or not you listen to those conversations and watch your people die. At the end of the day, the whole world, indeed, if you look at even countries like Israel, Israel purchased this almost double of the price. Are you also suggesting that because Israel also purchased this almost double of the price, it means that Israel stole or there was some level of corruption at their end? You should situate the argument in the context that during the urgency of the moment, governments owe their people a duty of care and that very sacred responsibility of making sure that they get them the vaccines. And so if you come and establish a very simplistic argument that because it is being sold at A amount, it shouldn't be sold at B amount to somebody, it's so simplistic. There have been arguments about the fact that countries are buying, I mean, people will even reference US and other things that they bought it at A amount. You should know the difference in international relations between people. There are countries that have bilateral treaties on trade, on tariffs and all those things. Bring all these things into the conversation before you'll be able to make a very honest conversation. But for me, when you enter into a contract, there is a burden on you to, go by the terms of the contract. And so the parties in the contracts have responsibilities that they have to provide. I mean, some level of consideration that they have to provide. If it is established that one party reneges on his responsibility or abiding by any of the terms of the contracts, it gives you the opportunity to terminate the contract.
But that's what the minority is saying, that looking at, you know, how well connected the president is on the foreign front, and the fact that he was once, you know, the man who was dealing with all these international, you know, institutions and countries on behalf of the country. And so if he had all these connections and he still comes back to tell us, and of course, government comes back to tell us that we still were facing challenges dealing directly with the Russian government. Minority says they investigated and realized that the government was even ready to deal with us directly.
I mean, to cure this mischief, the question is, has Russia denounced or come to deny the argument that government made several attempts to them and it didn't yield any results? Unless the opposition is able to demonstrate that Russia is saying otherwise.
But they said they spoke to, is it the deputy commissioner in the country or so, and he said...
So is opposition worse? Is opposition
nobody
worse?
had come to them.
Is opposition worse again? Have you read
hold on, I'll let you come to this.
Have you read the presser? Have you read the presser that was released by the Ministry of Education? Sorry, Ministry of Health. If you recall, in that presser, they adduced to the fact that they established some level of relations with the embassy of Russia in Ghana. And of course, it was all in relation to procuring of the vaccines, which never materialized. This is a position that Russia has not issued any disclaimer upon. So so far as I'm concerned here, that remains a sacred position. Of course, these guys will come in and establish that. And indeed, their argument or whatever conversation that they raise should be raised in a proper context. They are interested parties and are stakeholders in our political discourse. Their whole aim, or of course, their vested interest is to make sure that government is seen as doing something untoward with this fight. If you recall, they set up a committee on health or something. Where is that committee? I asked them. You set up some committee of health experts on COVID.
The technical team.
The technical team. Where is that technical team?
The COVID technical team. But they made recommendations and they continue to complain.
That they presented to you.
I'm saying that where is that technical team now?
You didn't take those recommendations.
Everything that they were doing, boiled down to the politicization of the issue. Government was responding to the COVID. Of course, there were critical interventions, even interventions to insulate businesses, interventions to insulate human lives and protect human lives. Were all critical decisions that government was undertaking.
But have they not been vindicated at this point with this particular issue?
Vindicated on what?
Because now we've abrogated the contract with this middleman because he said he cannot make available the vaccine.
You have to cite the reason for the abrogation of the contract. The reason was not because a certain amount was ballooned. The reason was because that the parties who were supposed to produce those vaccines failed or reneged on their responsibility to produce them. And it means that their part of the contract, the terms that they were supposed to abide by, they didn't. And it gives you the opportunity to terminate the contract.
But it doesn't take away the fact that we were still going to purchase it at $19.
No, and I'm saying that you have to separate that argument from this one because...
How do we separate it?
So you have to look at the factor that I've cited, that you have to put it in the context of within the agency of the moment when the order was being made. Again, you have to look at the variables that contributed to the amount going up. And I've cited the variables to be freight, the transportation, shipment. I mean, all these variables.
Are you sure that it's probably not because of this revelation from the Norwegian reporter, which is why they decided to cancel this deal? And
I mean, this could all be speculative assumptions, and every person will be entitled to make those speculations and conclusions.
Adam, please come
at the end of the day, government.
Adam, allow me to land. I called him to come. So you land. 10 seconds. We don't have much time. So 10 seconds.
At the end of the day, government owed the duty of care to its citizens, and government did everything possible within that time to procure vaccines.
We still don't have the vaccines anyway.
No, but the point is that it is the company that reneged on their duty. And government has taken that bold step of cancelling so that we do not incur any form of debt.
Bella, just 3 or 4 things that stood out in his presentation. And I understand why he is struggling to defend this. I understand. One, I mean, we don't have to even get too technical. These are the facts. Fact number 1. That the Sputnik V vaccine was available at half the price that President Akufo-Addo wanted to buy it on a government-to-government basis. But they simply thought that they needed to pass through a middleman. And I'm telling you that.
How?
No, but,
I mean,
no, you
do
see,
you have evidence
I am
of this?
speaking. No, but Bella, we have established, and the minority have clearly said, when you speak to the Russian government officials, they told us that they were ready on a government to government. And I'm saying that, does it even make sense that the whole government of Ghana could not have a direct trade or transaction?
But we're not the only ones who were struggling. We're not the only country that was struggling with procuring vaccines.
Bella, let's ask our viewers. Does it make sense that an individual who is not even Russian moves from the Dubai, goes all the way to Russia,
That's business.
and he is able. He's not dealing with a private thing. He is able to deal with the government. And your government, headed by President Akufo-Addo, who touts himself as an international icon, could not have a direct transaction with the government of Russia. It is a failure on the part of God. It means that there is something really wrong with the kind of leadership that the president is providing.
But we weren't the only ones who were struggling to procure vaccines.
But other countries were able to get it.
Other countries could also.
So if an individual could get that deal and the government couldn't get it, it means that there is something wrong with your leadership.
Nothing is wrong.
Problem number two.
Couldn't get it.
Bella,
he is done.
Bella,
okay.
no, I'm
hold on, Chrissy,
Bella,
please.
Issue number two. You had confidence in this middleman, and that is why you used soul sourcing to even get him to come in. And today he says he's unable to provide or to.
But they said they were dealing with other companies as well.
What does it mean? No, but you had confidence. This was the person you brought in, and you were striking a deal with. You brought him to the airport, brought media men to come and cover and announce to the people of Ghana.
They were still considering other options.
So but if you are dealing with private individual A, you brought that person to Ghana. Let the media cover it. And all the projections you were giving us was based on the arrangement with that person. How then do you turn back to tell her at the time you brought that person in, you were considering other company?
But we heard the chairman of the health committee in Parliament say it.
But Bella,
that is not the only company that we're dealing with.
I am saying that. No, Bella, it doesn't make sense. The individual came. Didn't the Arab whatever? Wasn't he in Ghana?
Okay.
He came. You were dealing with that person. And you had confidence in him at the time. If today he's unable to provide, it tells you that there was misjudgment on your part, that you lacked discretion.
But we were
that is
told
why
that
you were dealing with an individual who could not provide.
We were told that he brought those vaccines in as assurance.
Bella,
that he could provide the vaccines
I am
for us.
repeating this for emphasis. President Akufo-Addo, his health minister and his government, the entire government sees COVID-19 as an opportunity to loot more. This is just a deal that has gone bad.
And I dissociate myself and my company from this.
I'm
sorry, but we do not agree to this unless you can prove this.
I can prove it.
Unless you can prove this substantially.
I'm repeating it for emphasis.
I'm sorry,
they
but
see this COVID as an opportunity to loot more.
From it. All right. Thank you. My time is up. My time is up, and I have to go. By the way, let's see how this goes. We're told that we're expecting some more vaccines as we move along, and so hopefully in the next 2 to 3 weeks, let's see if governments can procure some of these vaccines like they have indicated, so that many more of us can get vaccinated. And those who have already taken the first jab will also get to take their second. I've been speaking to Edem Agbana. He's a deputy youth organizer of the NDC, and Kwesi Kwarteng is a member of the NPP communications team. This morning, we're getting to know better our GMB queens, and so every region will be duly represented on the show today, and we'll get to interact with them and find out more about them. Oh yeah, okay. You're supporting the Volta region.
Oh yeah, sure.
Okay,
sure.
I hear. Kwesi, you are from Ashanti. So, okay, but have you seen them yet?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, we hope that you see them so you can go to them. You have.
Very beautiful.
She must win. You have to vote. You have to vote for your favorite. Don't just say she must win.
Oh, I'll vote for her.
We'll be back with some more. Thank you, Sheila Bonsu, for styling me as always every Friday right here on the show. We'll be back with some sports.
Now you can be part of the extraordinary world of endless possibilities on Vodafone. With the best value and amazing data offers and services available in Ghana, your dreams are achievable. Get more for less with Vodafone data. Vodafone. Together we can.
Cowbell milk is both delicious and nutritious. And for goodness and vitality, Cowbell milk is an added blend of the most important vitamins, which we call Vita-Rich. A, C, D, E and K. Plus vitamin B9, which helps with brain development. It's real goodness for the ones we love. Cowbell, our milk, now with vitamin B9. This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the FDA.
Autofix. Autofix Engineering Ghana Limited, your automobile fixing expert. At Autofix, your old and rickety cars are made brand new. Your accident cars come alive. Trust Autofix for an excellent job when it comes to bodyworks and spraying. Our skilled mechanics are trained to service, maintain and repair all kinds of automobile. We install security tracking systems as well. We can modify your car to make it the latest model. You can sell your faulty cars to us. We also buy accident cars even if they are still at the police station. Locate Autofix at Kaneshi Odoko Highway, close to Accra Academy, behind the Goyle Filling Station. Call us
0244 498 776 or 0244 498 774.
Concerned about your family's safety at your home or business? Worry no more. Get more. For any window or door, get more. For unique custom-made solutions, get more. Call Trelidor 0561 24 24 24. Trelidor, Africa's strongest burglar proofing.
Hello and welcome to your money-making class with NLA 590 Mobile. Today we will discuss how you can win cash by playing 590 on your phone or online. Visit 590mobile.com.gh or dial *959# on any handset or network and choose option 2 on the menu for Too Sure. To win with Too Sure, also known as Direct 2, select 2 numbers from 1 to 90. You win 240 times your stake amount if both of your selected numbers appear